Okay, let's review Raya and the Last Dragon, a Disney production, which I didn't see much advertising for, but it was pretty good. It's a fantasy adventure set in a world vaguely inspired by real-life Asian cultures of the past. It has a metaphysical sort of structure to the nations at play. Let me try and explain. This world has much in common with Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it's not just the Asian-inspired fantasy land. Each nation is associated with a metaphysical aspect. In Avatar, it's the four elements: earth, fire, water, etc. This world has a central river in the shape of a dragon, and each nation is named after a part of the dragon: fang, tail, spine, talon, and heart. All five of these nations were united in a time when the dragons still lived, but then that purple smoke monster species invaded. The dragons were petrified, and the last dragon saved the world with a magic orb. The human nations divided and fought amongst each other for the orb. And that brings us up to the present day. Raya, who technically is still a Disney princess, is tasked with being a guardian of the orb for the Heart Nation. They do a very good job with world building here. Each nation feels distinct in its identity and draws from real world cultures as well. I've been watching a whole bunch of Let's Plays of Age of Empires 2 HD edition, so I know all about it. I'm recognizing Vietnam, Laos, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand. Some I think might even be based on Mongolia. The tribe that lives in the icy mountains. That guy, he was giving off that vibe just a bit. And then there's this individual. I sure hope you're joking around. You do understand the vast different cultures that make up Asia. And you understand that there's more to China than just martial arts and dragons, right? You do recall how China reacted to the remake of Mulan. Raya put some sort of harness on that armadillo bear thing and had it rolling around as a ball. It kinda reminds me of BB-8 from Star Wars. So they took the magic talking dragon out of Mulan and put it in this movie. Sisu is the last dragon and is credited with creating the orb that saved the world last time. She's played by Awkwafina. Now remember, don't get Awkwafina confused with Awkwafina. Sisu is a big, fluffy dragon, part of a trend of making dragons furry for some reason, much like Pete's dragon. I blame Falcor for starting this trend. You know, the Dungeons & Dragons players have it all wrong. A dragon's morality is not based on whether it's chromatic versus metallic, it's whether it's scaly versus fluffy, generally speaking. Now, if I know anything about the internet, I'm quite certain that the furry artists are going to have all kinds of fun with her. Yeah, imagine what that would feel like, having a serpentine body coiling around you, and yet it's softer than shag carpeting. She probably wouldn't like it, but I'd just love to cuddle up with her. Why am I such a creep? What's wrong with me? This is by no means the first time I found a dragon attractive. Oh yeah, pin me down and add me to your treasure hoard. Anyway, as for the art style, I'm inclined to think there is some asset recycling going on. Modify Raya's face a little bit and she's totally Moana. Or at least, you could be confused as such when looking at her from a distance, with a different set of clothing, or from behind. And speaking of Moana, I'm not the only one who thinks that the one guy from the Spine tribe is an older version of Maui. Just give him a haircut and give him some facial hair. So it is something of a MacGuffin quest, because they've got the orb shattered into 5 separate pieces, and they gotta collect them all and travel to distant lands. Sisu disguises herself as human, thus enabling a character to have bright neon-colored hair, despite this being a fantasy land, set in the equivalent of the Middle Ages, and thus they wouldn't have hair dye, but whatever. She does look pretty, though. Speaking of hair, Two of the characters within this movie have the side of their head shaven and the rest of it made long and straight. This looks tremendously modern, and in fact some people have referred to this as the SJW haircut. I actually do remember this one lady who, funny enough, ran the HR of my previous employer actually had that haircut. I'm getting off topic. You know I would behave myself, and I don't need to be sent to the HR department for anything. What are you talking about? So sometimes the dialogue does seem like it's more modern than would be expected in a fantasy land like this. I even heard them say, "What's the sitch?" one time in the dialogue. I haven't heard that term used since Kim Possible. Something I don't quite understand, though. If Sisu is hundreds of years old and from the same world, why is it then she's baffled by certain aspects of it, like those bugs that detonate their own naturally occurring fireworks? They're like fireflies taken to the extreme. This is quite different from Frozen. There's no songs in this movie, as I recall. It's more of an action adventure. Kind of reminds me of a video game, the way Sisu keeps leveling up every time she gains a crystal shard. She gains a new power. Some are even totally OP, like making it rain. All those purple fog monsters are repulsed by water, so that's like solution right there. Yeah, the purple fog monsters. They should logically be the end of the world as we know it, but they're hardly a threat because all you gotta do is splash them with water. I mean, that's just like the aliens from Signs. It's pathetic. Although this would make a great premise for a TV show. I mean, it's practically Avatar: The Last Airbender, the movie, done right. The film has a strong message about trust and how important it is for society to function. Sisu is very trusting of others, whereas Raya has good reason to be suspicious. But if my words haven't convinced you to see this movie, what are you doing here?
Oh, I totally forgive you for shooting me that one time. That's just how it is when you live the gangster life, you know? By the way, where were you concealing that crossbow?